we are facing a global epidemic, a war against women that is not being recognized by our governments, that is not being acknowledged. And there's a need to raise our voices together to ask our governments to act, and act now, not tomorrow. I'm going to report on the situation of Italy, specifically because that's where I live, and this is just one of the examples because it also represents what happens in many other parts of the world. It also represents what happens in Nigeria, where it's even less reported than in a country like Italy. The situation of violence in women is extremely high. As I said, it is an epidemic. Every other day, there's a report in the news of a woman being killed or of a woman being raped, not by people outside, not by strangers, as people want to believe or want to make others believe, but by their intimate partners, by people with whom they live, people they love or who declare that they love them. And unfortunately, Italy has the unfortunate primate of being the country with the highest rate of domestic violence in Western Europe, where it is estimated that over 7 million women have been victims of various forms of domestic violence. And we are talking of a country of 57 million people, of which a little over 50% are women. So we can understand that this is an unacceptably, it is extremely high. It isn't acceptable even if there are just 2 women. But to think of that high number of women is really amazing. So it is not surprising to find that within this context, that a country like Italy is also one of the countries where you find a high rate, as a country of destination, a high rate of women being trafficked into sexual exploitation, and which has also unfortunately become one of the main transit hubs from which women are trafficked into sexual exploitation in various parts of Europe. The women are brought into Italy, and then they are sent out. Now the main destination, because of the financial crisis in Southern Europe, the main destination are the rich countries of Northern Europe. Norway, Iceland, and those other countries where the traffickers believe they can earn more money for them. We find within this context that impunity flourishes, where cultural stereotypes of gender relations and gender equality still exist, is still strong, although it is denied. It's a country where, unfortunately, until very recently, honor crimes were still allowed, where a man could kill his wife if he felt that she had been unfaithful to him. And this was only very recently removed from the law. So we are not thinking of, as people want to say, oh, we are talking of one of these so-called developing countries where men can do whatever they want. We are talking of a developed, one of the so-called first world countries where this happens. And this kind of attitude still exists. I mean, they are where men feel that they regard women as their property and refuse to accept that their wives or partners or girlfriend can leave them if they are not satisfied with the relationship. And so what many of them do is either they kill them or they rape them as a show to let them know that they are their properties and they can do what they want. Where many men believe and strongly defend what they consider as the right to buy women's bodies in prostitution. And so there's really a high level of prostitution there. Then the second level is the media report, the way the media reports these incidences. The media in Italy tend to legitimize men's violence against women by reporting such violence in ways that relieves the men of their responsibility for their violent acts. For instance, when a woman is killed, the media reports, oh, well, it was in a moment, you see, the man in a moment of, he lost his head. It was a moment in which he wasn't thinking clearly, or it was a moment in which he was under the influence of some form of, drug or whatever. It is never his fault. It is also always something that pushes him. And so these are ways in which they are given, in one way or the other, immunity, because it is not their fault, it's something else that's responsible. Then, within this context, we also recognize a legal system with inadequate and insufficient legal provisions, which does not provide adequate protection and response to victims and potential victims of domestic violence. Many of those who are killed, in many cases, you find that they had been to the police, they had reported to the police. And the police would dismiss it in many cases as, oh, well, it's a private matter, it's something domestic. And then when the women are killed and they are arrested, what happens is that, well, if it's a first-time offender, they avoided, oh, poor man, he's been jailed. I remember a case of a friend of mine who's a lawyer who was very angry, rightly. She was defending, there was this situation of separation. And the couple went to the social assistant to talk about times when he could go to see the two daughters. The man came in with a knife, stabbed and killed the wife in front of the welfare officer. Then when they went to court, the man was now asking for the right, because the woman's parents now asked for the two daughters to be given to them. And the man said no, he wanted to still have the right to decide on the children's future. And the lawyer for the family said no. The lawyer for the man was angry with his colleague because, oh, poor man, while he was in prison, she now made an application to have his home sold to take care of his children. He seemed to have completely forgotten that he was in prison because of a violent act, the killing of his wife, which had led to the fact that these children were now without a mother and also without a father. So this is just one of the examples that you have.